All right. So really nice fight there from takaze. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Should be up and running now, everybody. Really nice fight there from takaze. A little bit slower on Synthpop's end. Did have to take that death to one of his soldiers, but that doesn't really matter in the ultimate scheme of things. I didn't notice any encounters in the mine, so we should be on step route and everything here. Good to go. So for anyone who's never played Final Fantasy VI, a little bit of lore. What we know is that Terra, the main character here, Terra, has been under control by the evil empire, and this Esper here that Synthpop is talking to, there's something about it and its magical properties that the empire wants, so they've come in here trying to get a hold of it, and events have unfolded here as we've seen them to this point. So coming up here for the naming, there's another little speed trick that we use where we're going to shorten the character's name down to one character generally. This is a common thing in a lot of RPGs because the names appear sort of frame by frame or however you want to put it. So by shortening it down, that's less letters that get printed out, and it'll save you a few frames every time that character's name comes up on screen. So it's just a small, basically completely free little time save. So coming out of the small cutscene here, we'll be going back through the mines to have Terra try to make her escape from the town of Narshe. We really want Terra to hit level 6 before we get into the next pre-scripted sequence. Future party members join you based on the average level of the characters you already have. So by having Terra be level 6 as opposed to 5, that will push the other characters to join up levels higher as well, which is really important in terms of your overall damage output. So everything in the cave here should go down to 1 all-target fire. The only real, if you're on step route, which appears like takaze is, the only thing that can really happen to you here that's a minor inconvenience are what I call the death wrenches, that those repo men, every once in a while during their dying animation, will waste some of your time by throwing a wrench at you. So that encounter looked a little bit early on Synthpop's end. I'm not sure if Synthpop is on the step route. Doesn't appear that he is. The step route, you certainly don't need to be on step route to have a decent time, but it really helps, and it really helps with the consistency. There is a way to set what's called the seed, so basically what encounters you get and what enemies you get within those encounter packs. You can sort of manipulate that by setting the seed up before the game starts. And that really helps in some areas like the Leet River and the Phantom Train especially, and being able to get through them a lot quicker. You could definitely still get lucky, get some decent encounter packs on the seed you happen to be on, and get some decent luck with your preemptives, which is completely random, and there's nothing you can do about that. But the step route really makes it more consistent for sure. So takaze forcing that extra counter for level 6, and Synthpop is going to be doing the same here. Takaze's gotten himself a small lead, mostly from what I was able to catch while I was getting my sound issues fixed. Just from some little better execution in the battles actually within Narshe. Synthpop was really careful about making sure that Wedge and Vix ran, and takaze didn't need that extra time, which is where he's built this small lead that he's got. Just a little bit more exposition here. This is a sequence that the game, if you play it full all the way through, that the game references a number of times, where Terra kills a whole bunch of Imperial soldiers. You will actually see it referenced a few times in the speedrun if you can catch it in between the text mashing. And here we see the Emperor Gestal and the villain Kefka and Leo and some other woman on the right. I don't know who that is. We never see her again. So this is the first of two multi-party battles that we'll be going through in this run. There is, again, more speed tech here as well. The Vo-Mammoth guards here who will come out after you, you can actually walk past NPCs without triggering encounters if you do it while they're in the motion of walking. So basically, while their leg is up on the sprite and they're walking past you, if you walk past them during that part of the animation, you actually won't trigger the encounter. So by doing that twice, we can actually get all the way to the Marshal without getting into any extra encounters. Now, if you mess it up, and you're on step route like takaze is, and you make a mistake, it doesn't put you off the step route, but it does put you off your encounter packs. So you'll still get encounters on the same tiles you expect them on later, but it won't be the same enemy groups. And in Mount Colts in particular, that can really matter. We get our trusty treasure hunter Locke, once again shortening his name down. And we'll get to see takaze attempt the multi-party battle skip here. Synthpop not too far behind. Maybe a minute, probably less than that. Probably more like 30 seconds. So here we go. It's going to run straight down here, and if you're quick, you get the opportunity to, there you go, use that skip there. And then we'll skip that same skip to get past the last Vo-Mammoth here as well. All right, nicely done. Now the Marshal fight, what we really don't want is net. Net can be a real problem. And that's not great. So the main thing you want to do in this fight is you want to take at least Mog's spear off him, if not both the spear and shield. Kupan getting stopped is not as bad as Mog getting stopped, but Kupan is your second largest DPS source aside from Mog himself, so this can really slow the fight down. So this is going to be an opportunity for Synthpop to make up some time here if he can get a little bit lucky. That's perfect. Synthpop gets the melee attack and blocks it. Unfortunately, he mistargeted there. You really want the two weaker Moogles in the middle hitting the Lobos. So he's going to give a little bit of that potential time back. I think overall, though, we'll likely still make up a little bit here. So that Locke has saved Terra from the Narshe guards. He's going to be taking her to the neighboring country of Figaro. And on step route, there are a few... the way the overworld encounters work is that every time you walk on a square that has a potential to give you an encounter, you gain threat. And then once your threat reaches a certain threshold, depending on the seed you're on, you get an encounter. There are some squares on the overworld that do not have an opportunity to give you an encounter. If you don't know about them, you'll never be able to tell. There's nothing different about them visually. So we should get one right in this little corner of the forest. And we should get another encounter just up against the mountains here on the south tip. Yep, it should be another single leafer as well. You can get Leafers or Dark Winds on the overworld here. The Dark Winds are a little harder to run from, so the two encounters of just Leafers is really nice. And you really don't want encounters on the desert if you can avoid it. Some of the desert monsters no stop, which is a real time waster if they hit you with it. So it looks like Synthpop is actually back on Step Route here. It looked like he was off of it earlier. His encounters looked like they were coming earlier than they were supposed to. But because you have to waste a few steps in the back of the Narshe Cave for an encounter anyway, he didn't lose so many steps that that was an issue for him. And so here we got Edgar. Edgar is going to be one of the most important party members here going forward. He is going to be one of our main sources of damage, both multi-target and single-target later on. He starts out with a completely broken all-party ability. And because he starts at one of the higher levels for your individual characters, sort of gearing him up for single target damage later makes a lot of sense as well. And then we'll learn about another party member here coming up, Edgar's brother Sabin. We'll get into Sabin a little bit later when we actually come across him. Sabin is an interesting character for an old-fashioned turn-based RPG like this. And in Figaro, the Land of Cutscenes here, we essentially learn that Edgar is outwardly aligning with the Empire, but is actually part of the resistance against it. And we find out about some of the potential tension that happened in the royal family here in the past. The game explains this in a lot more detail later, but unfortunately, we don't quite get to that part in the run during these races. So while we're getting through the rest of these cutscenes here, I will mention that this is both of these runners are 2-1. You need to be at least 3-1 to be able to move on. So this is a lose and you're out, win, and you have a shot to move on. Takaze in particular has a pretty decent tiebreaker score, so a win here would give Takaze a pretty excellent chance at moving on. Synthpop would probably need a little bit of his help from his previous opponents, but absolutely would need a win to be able to move on as well. Looks like the Chancellor behaved for both of our runners, which is rare. Every Chancellor in every game is evil, just to varying degrees. Ooh, Takaze missing the staring contest. So FF6 actually has some really neat little quality of life things that are really small to it. One of them is that if you just hold the A button down, you'll interact with things at the first possible frame, which is really nice. So with these guards, if you're actually get it just right, you can actually have those two guards face each other, just simply because you'll talk to them and start the text boxes before the game has the opportunity to turn them around. One of my favorite moments as a kid here, after you've played this a couple of times, is beating Locke to your bedroom. Well, I mean, you can't technically get in front of him here, but really. Synthpop with the staring contest, though, so there you go. You can see it there. So there is Kefka, the villain and the target for our race. One of the one of the better villains in classic RPG history, at the very least. This, in all honesty, for anyone who has not played this is an excellent game as a casual playthrough. Even if you're not a particularly huge Final Fantasy fan, if you're curious at all about trying the series, this is definitely one of the ones I would recommend. So Edgar is awoken in what I assume is the middle of the night, even though it looks pretty bright outside, to find the Empire has set fire to his castle. What is a king to do? Fortunately, Edgar is a man with a plan. And while it may appear that that plan is running away, chickening out on chocobos, not so much the case, as we'll see shortly. As it turns out that Figaro is a master of the Kingdom of Machinery, and they have somehow developed a mole castle. Don't worry about the physics of it. It's fine. It's all fine. But the son of a submariner and his allies are get out of there, assuming they get through these Magitech armor. Fortunately, I was talking about Edgar. Edgar comes pre-equipped with a tool called the auto crossbow, which does a pretty high amount of physical damage to all targets at literally no resource cost. So it is pretty broken. And so 2 shots from the auto crossbow will take out these Magitech armors. You do have the opportunity to try and steal a couple of safety healing items with Locke here. And it is exceedingly important to not use any magic on Terra, either in this battle or through the cave coming up here, because it will trigger a very long cutscene, fondly known as the magic cutscene. And you really don't want to sit through that in a speedrun. Another trick that we saw Takaze do is the game, when the battle ends, if there's any open menus, actually has to cycle through them. So if you actually don't have any menus open, you can actually save yourself a handful of frames every time the battle ends, which was why you saw him defend with Locke and Terra at the end while Edgar's final auto crossbow animation was going off. So we're heading into the South Figaro Cave here. We will be fighting all the encounters that we get in here. Not quite so much for experience as money, really. The experience is helpful, but really we need to do a little bit of shopping in South Figaro when we get there. And Edgar's auto crossbow is just going to basically completely eliminate everything in here. If you get a really low roll, those little eye enemies, the Bleeries, may survive one shot, and you may need, but if they do, they're surviving with like single-digit health. One quick follow-up fight from either of the other characters will take them out. Bleeries have 119 HP, I believe. So both runners still on step route. There you go. You can see Synth Pop getting a low roll there, and you need to take that Bleary out. I'm not sure if Synthpop took an extra step there. Back attack here is unfortunate. No real chance of these enemies killing you. But you definitely start with lower ATB, so it does take longer just to get through the fight. Oh, and Takaze, though, just getting blocked by the NPCs. Oh, man, that's not good. So most runners will use the 3 sprint shoes route here. We'll use all 3 of those sets of sprint shoes throughout the course of the run. They double your walking speed, as you can see, so they're essential for a speed run. Also going to put all 3 characters into the back row. That's a safety for preventing some damage going up through Mount Colts here. And Edgar's auto crossbow damage is not affected by him being in the back row, so there's no reason not to do it, since Edgar's going to be doing all your heavy lifting here, really. There is a variant on that route where you go with 2 pairs of sprint shoes and a star pendant. The star pendant prevents poison damage, but in FF6, if you equip a status-preventing a status-preventing relic, if you have the status that it prevents, it'll actually just flat remove it for you. And you can actually see here Synthpop is actually going with 2 sprint shoes and the star pendants here. So he will be protected from poisons on Mount Colts, which the Trilliums can do. Whereas if Takaze gets poisoned, he's going to have to do some menuing. So we take a little detour here to pick up this Atlas Armlet. The Atlas Armlet increases the physical damage output of the wielder by, I believe it's 25%, and it does affect Edgar's auto crossbow, which is nice. But Edgar will actually be doing some physical attacking later, so that Atlas Armlet will pay some dividends there as well. So the other thing we're going to want to try to do here up on Mount Colts is we wanted to get very specific levels for some of our characters. We want Edgar to level 10, Locke to level 9, and Terra to level 8. Oh, well done there by Takaze. But Locke is a lot closer to getting to that goal than the other 2 characters, so ideally we want Locke to run away on one of these larger monster packs, and Takaze just got it right there, so he's fine. He can just take all the encounters here from straight up from here on out until he gets his levels. These brawlers we run from, they don't offer particularly great experience, and until you pick up the Atlas Armlet, there's a very decent chance that the auto crossbow won't one-shot them either. If there's only one left on screen, they can also use stone on you, which can absolutely wreck the person that it hits. So they're just not worth messing with. All right, so Synthpop, unfortunately, it looks like is off the step route. If you're on step route, you shouldn't see this double Tusker pack. This is a lot of experience if you kill it. However, the Tuskers can counter you with gore for a lot of damage. And the fight typically takes at least 2 rounds, so it's a lot slower. And you can see here Takaze did have Locke get poisoned, so he's going to have to take some menu time here to cure this. Terra's MP is usually not an issue, but if you get poisoned a lot and have to use a lot of antidotes, it can be. You really want to make sure that you can fire Vargas every turn. So even though Synthpop is off the step route, he is getting some pretty decent-sized encounters here, so he shouldn't really have any experience issues, I wouldn't think. So on the step route there, you can run away from another poison. That's really unfortunate. You can run away from 2 packs of these Trilliums and still have enough experience. So if we get a preemptive or a battle where the characters start with high ATB, it may take advantage of that and just run. Synthpop also living a little bit dangerously, I think, with Terra's health total there, if I caught that real quick. Anything under about 70 HP or so, you're in danger if you get a crit from one of these Tuskers of putting somebody down. So it's takaze got a preemptive there and opted to run. Going into Vargas, so Vargas comes with 2 Apple-approved bears called Ipoos. Basically, you want a single target fire and 1 auto crossbow. We'll take them out. And then it'll basically be auto crossbow and fires on Vargas. Previously, during the encounters, takaze had swapped the Mithril Blade onto Locke, and he will be physically attacking Vargas after he moves him into the front row, like so. The only real piece of speed tech you really are overly concerned with Vargas is it is possible to force his Doom Fist, either force it early so that by the time his talking animation on it is done, you're basically not losing any time on your menuing, or you force him to do it so late that you don't see it. And the way we do that is with weight tricking, which we both runners did on the Welk fight as well. Because the battle mode is set to wait, while you're in a menu like the magic menu or the item menu, the enemy ATB bars don't fill. So while a battle animation is playing, if you have the menu open, you can stall the enemy turns. And while that's helpful for mitigating your damage, it's mostly for manipulating when attacks come out, in particular the ones from bosses, because a lot of them will often have text associated with them. So we can see here how takaze managed to handle the fight. If we see Doomfist, basically as soon as the text goes away, or if we never see it, we'll know that he manipulated Vargas correctly. And there you go, Doomfist essentially right away. So by the time he's finished inputting his blitz on Sabin, the text is done, so it doesn't cost him any additional time. And so with Sabin, as we mentioned, he's kind of an interesting character. He's a throwback to the old fighting genre, or not old, it's still going on. He's a throwback to the fighting games. His blitz techniques are button combinations that you put in to get certain moves. And some of them, Aura Bolt in particular, which you'll be seeing a lot of throughout the rest of the game of the run, is I believe is your highest single target damage ability you have access to. So Sabin will be really important in terms of being able to get through bosses. So we see Synthpop heading out through Vargas here. Shouldn't if I don't think he'll get another Gale Cut. Locke will go down to 1 if he does get it, but I think he should be okay. Opting to attack with Edgar rather than auto crossbow. It is a faster animation, I believe, to just regularly attack, but it is a little bit short on the damage. Looks like he's going to be okay though. And we'll see where Doomfist shows up in the cycle here for Synthpop. So there is the theoretical possibility, as you can see here for Synthpop, that Doomfist didn't come out right away. So we kind of had to wait a couple of seconds for that text to go away before Sabin could actually get his blitz off. So that's what you're trying to avoid by manipulating Vargas. With the Returner's hideout here, something to mention is that it is theoretically possible to soft lock in here. Edgar follows that returner that you speak to when you first come in. If there's a returner who's sort of wandering in the next room near the table, if he happens to walk in front of Edgar on the stairs, you can get stuck because Edgar won't know what to do because the following command will sort of get messed up and he'll get blocked and you're stuck. So that possibility does theoretically exist. If you hold A to talk to the returner on the first frame and mash A to get through the text as quick as possible, then that NPC doesn't have enough time to get over in front of you from where he starts. But if you don't do that, then that possibility definitely does exist. Synthpop getting the rare Vaporites on Mount Colts that I'm pretty sure they can only show up in this one small area right here. So takaze is coming back here, opting to talk with this returner here really quick. Grabbing the Genji glove from there, which is interesting. You do have to say no to Bannon 3 times anyway. I don't think it's much of a time difference either way. But something probably most people didn't know as a kid is that if you do either what takaze just did and speak to that returner after talking to Bannon, or turn Bannon down 3 times, you get the Genji glove as opposed to the gauntlet. The Genji glove and the gauntlet, what we assume that they were supposed to do is the gauntlet would double or at least increase the damage a single weapon does at the cost of having a shield in your offhand, and that the Genji glove was supposed to reduce the damage of 2 weapons holding 1 in each hand. Unfortunately, they weren't actually programmed that way, and they all just do regular damage. So being able to equip 2 weapons at full damage is really nice, obviously. And so that is how Edgar will be doing a lot of single target damage for us going forward. So we'll be setting up for another little trick here. So because takaze is set up on the correct step route, what he's going to be able to do here is he's going to save the game and he's going to reset. And he's going to reset from the save screen again coming up here. And this is going to advance the seed that he's on. And it's also going to reset his NPC movement value. So that is essentially just a value the game keeps track of that keeps the wandering NPCs and directs where they wander to. By resetting it, we can get this returner to walk on this carpet. And while he's on that first step on this particular seed setup, this will give you the optimal Leet River. We'll only get 2 encounters for the entirety of the trip. And this, if you don't do step route, this can be one of the biggest time losses here for you, because you can easily get, I believe it's 7 encounters at max here. I might be wrong on that, but a lot more than 2 if you get unlucky here. So we're going to run from the first one, and this encounter with the 2 pterodons. It looks like takaze is just opting just to take the preemptive and run. So we'll see if Synthpop tries to level Edgar. I'll go through that strat if he gets there. I'm assuming takaze, because he got the preemptive, just decided, you know what, I'm just going to take advantage of this and just run away from the fight as quickly as possible. Not getting that extra level on Edgar is not a humongous big deal, really. It may lower Edgar's damage output a little bit on Ultros and on Kefka, but it's certainly not crippling or anything. It definitely can be faster to run from that fight overall. So now that Edgar will be doing single target damage, moving him to the front row becomes pertinent. Otherwise, he'd only be doing half damage with his regular fight attacks in the back. And now we're off to Ultros. Ultros, we will also be doing more weight tricking here. And the same trick that we used on Welk, where we try to time an attack with his full ATB bar to sort of cancel out a turn from him, so that hopefully we don't only see one of his text-generated attacks here. And this fight can be a little bit scary because we're going to move Bannon into the front row. And Bannon is a lose condition. If he dies, it is a game over. So if this doesn't, if you sort of miss the quick kill strat and Ultros gets to, I believe, his third turn, he can all tentacle the party, and that can kill Bannon on its own. And he also does the follow-up melee to that as well. The fact that Ultros' first melee was also on Bannon makes this a little bit doubly scary here. It's crit from Edgar. This Aura Bolt should finish him off. Or no, sorry, that's right. You need needs the attack from Edgar as well. There we go. Nicely done, though. So Ultros normally would go through at least a couple of scripted attacks. Takaze, using that ATB and that counter cancel glitch, didn't see any of them, which is exactly what we wanted. The only texts that we saw was the counter attack to Edgar, Terra casting fire on him. Another interesting thing about you'll see on the first time on the river here as well is you may have noticed that Terra was inflicted with Dark status. Dark is actually bugged in this game. It does essentially nothing. There is one small exception to that, but essentially it doesn't do anything because unfortunately they tied physical evade to magic block by accident. And the way Dark status works is that it increases the physical evade of whatever you're trying to hit. So because the physical evade doesn't do anything, Dark status doesn't do anything. Synthpop also opted to run from the Pterodon fight there as well. So what you'll see a lot of runners do normally is try to have the other three characters run away so that only Edgar is on screen for that kill, and that'll get Edgar to level 11. Which is just a little bit more damage output. But again, it's certainly fully feasible to run from that encounter as well. And you may have noticed Takaze did not shorten Shadow's name. That's because Shadow's name, after the name input, only appears, I believe, 2 or 3 more times. So it's actually just not worth the time it takes to knock those 5 letters off in his case. So Takaze is actually able to build a little bit more of a lead here, largely through Matt Colts. Synthpop was not on step route for a large portion of that. And that sort of, not only does it make you sort of have to fly by the seat of your pants a little bit, you never really quite know what fights to take and what to run from because you don't really know what you're getting in the future. It looks like Synthpop also forgot to move Edgar into the front row, so Edgar is not doing full damage here. And yeah, he's hesitating there now, so I think he's sort of deciding what he wants to do. Well, maybe we can get bailed out here a little bit by a Riot Blade. That would be nice. Unfortunately not. So in Final Fantasy VI, when a character is on very low life in the near death status, where in that kneeling position the Terra is in, using the fight command actually gives you a 1 in 16 chance of having a desperation attack, which looks cool and does a whole bunch of extra damage. So Takaze is into the Imperial camp here, running in. He's going to meet our mustache man, Cyan. We'll actually be turning the battle speed up here briefly for Cyan for this one particular fight, because the quickest way to take this general out is actually with Retort, which is essentially a counter to any physical attack that hits Cyan. At least that's how it's supposed to work. We'll get into that later. But by turning the battle speed up, you get this leader to get his next turn quicker so that this fight ends sooner. I actually couldn't tell what drop takaze got. 7/8 chance to get the black belt there, 1 and 8 to get the Phoenix down. There's arguments to be made in the speed run that you would actually like to get the Phoenix down in this one particular run, because the black belt generally doesn't really have a ton of use, but the Phoenix down is actually kind of a nice safety. Synthpop, by the way, for having that issue with Edgar in the back row, actually managed to clean up that Ultros fight very nicely afterward. And for anyone wondering, it is technically faster to skip Shadow and not pick him up. However, that is really dangerous in this camp for Sabin on his own at this lower level. In particularly, a couple of fights from now, there'll be a fight against 2 Templar and 2 soldiers. That fight for only Sabin is exceedingly dangerous. So Synthpop off step route completely here as well, getting that encounter in that spot that he got it. So this will be interesting to see for him upcoming. Although I do believe he does theoretically have the opportunity to get back on it if he steps correctly, getting into the Phantom Train. So 2 quick fights with Edgar here, and then there should be a quick menu just to swap some equipment over onto Sabin. Sabin is by far the more important character here. I mean, Shadow, for all intents and purposes, is essentially just a meat tank to absorb some damage for most of these fights. So we're going to put Shadow's ninja gear on Sabin to give him some extra speed. So optimally, it'll be both characters fighting these 2 soldiers, and then Sabin will aura bolt and Shadow will throw the air lancet that we picked up in the Returner hideout. You can also get lucky and have Shadow counterattack with Interceptor. That was an opportunity for it right there, actually. It was unfortunate not to get it. Still really nicely done, though. Takaze has just been really solid throughout this entire run. No major mistakes. Has hit most of the speed tricks relatively efficiently. Really nice run from him to this point. And here we see the purple Kool-Aid. It's just delicious purple Kool-Aid in the water there. Unfortunately, the people of Dome are deathly allergic to purple Kool-Aid, and they start dropping like flies. Synthpop getting through. I'm pretty sure I saw Phoenix down on Synthpop. I went by really quick. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Synthpop getting the Phoenix down. I do always sort of like to point out too when I commentate on these races that this particular sequence here in Doma, pretty shocking at the time. I mean, it feels weird to say that now, considering to the point that storytelling in video games has gotten to. But you know, wiping out an entire population, wiping out a main character's family with emphasizing the emotional impact of that was not something that you saw a lot of, back in the Super Nintendo era and earlier. So our understandably extremely upset Cyan here is going to be taking off towards the Imperial camp. Ready to start taking names. And so you can possibly only get a 3-pack here, so a little unfortunate to get the 4. What you want out of Cyan here is just physical attacks. He can dispatch as well, but that's slower. So we want physical attacks up until the last battle. The last battle is a little bit trickier because there's a cadet that generally won't be one-shot except by Aura Bolt from Saban, but you can't target Saban's blitzes. So you do have to sort of react to what ATB bars all 3 characters start with, and if Cyan goes early, what he does, you sort of have to react to him to get through the fight optimally. So you can see takaze pausing there to see what Cyan chose to do. And there you go. So really nicely done. Getting the fight from Saban and the Dirk throw from Shadow. Getting through that in 4 actions, which is, given the situation, pretty much the best you could hope for. And Synthpop here, unfortunately, also forgetting to move Saban into the front row here, which means you basically need to blitz with Saban every time, which is a lot slower than the auto attacks when you can use them. So definitely small time loss there for him, but still gets through the fight just fine. So be getting through these last few fights here in the match deck armor. Not really much can happen here. Little bit low health on a couple of the characters. It's possible 1 or 2 of them could go down, but you get a free full heal and revive coming up here pretty shortly, so there's not really a lot of danger here. Basically just get the inputs in as quickly as you can and do some inventory management if you can. So if you have the opportunity while attacks are going off, sorting out your inventory so that stuff that you are going to be using is closer to the top, and vice versa, stuff you won't be using is at the bottom. If you can do it while attack animations are going off, it doesn't cost you any additional time, so it's a decent chance to do it here. Nice side attack. Should get through this fight really quickly. And out of the Imperial base. So we'll be moving on to the Phantom Forest. This area can be a little bit dangerous. You can get pincered by the ghosts in here. And they can do a ton of damage, and they no stop. So that's can be really scary if that actually happens to you. The optimal strategy to get through it is generally to, because the ghosts are undead, obviously, is to use a potion on one of them to kill them and then try to run from the remaining 2. Some really, really nice, not a preemptive there, but some pretty decent ATBs, and the characters ran quickly. There's a back attack, but at least it's not a pincer. Synthpop, meanwhile, still leaving Saban in the back, so hopefully he'll remember to remedy that coming out of this encounter here. As you can see, Saban's not one-shotting those soldiers because he doesn't have the damage from the back row. There we go. Should have a much easier time with these last two fights here now. So the Phantom Train, this is where the step route really gets pushed here. There'll be one encounter in this train car, and then we'll be forcing an encounter in the next one before we leave it. Just because the encounter inside is much easier to deal with than the one outside. Nice preemptive here. And then the step route is essentially perfect for the rest of Saban's scenario from there. So one misstep will put you off of your best encounters. And Takaze getting trolled by the ghosts. So we take this still going pack here. Pretty nice fight there from Synthpop getting through that. I think actually he may have even gotten through that a bit quicker than Takaze did. And so from here, the step route is perfect. So Takaze misstepped right there. So I do believe that that will put him off the route. We'll be able to tell really quickly if he gets a 4 Whisper pack outside on the train at some point, or if he gets hazers inside the train, we'll know that he's off. Synthpop doing his unfortunate back attack here. Again, no real danger of dying or anything. It's just that, you know, those few extra seconds to get through the encounters, those things do add up. So detaching the rear train cars here. And let's see where this encounter shows up. I do believe that's a step early, so we'll see if that winds up throwing the encounter spots off going forward here. Nice preemptive on the bombs, that was really nice. So Synthpop making his way to the Phantom Forest. Definitely hanging in there, considering he was off step route early. Definitely has hung in there and kept this relatively close. So Shadow going down on Takaze's side, not really a big deal. Like I said, Takaze is mostly just a meat tank anyway. But here we go. We got the important time coming up here. Will Takaze suplex the train? Let's find out. Saban is a behemoth among men, able to lift a locomotive hundreds of feet into the air. See if he does. It is a little bit riskier with the character down, that's for sure. Yeah, it looks like he's not risking it with Shadow being down. I understand. The train can use Evil Toot on its first turn, which applies random status conditions. And so if you wind up with some combination of Muddle or Berserk on all your characters, that can be a real problem. And then you significantly up the odds of that happening with somebody being down. So I don't As much as I love the memes as much as everybody, but considering the situation, sub 1 hour through the Phantom Train kill is a really nice pace here for takaze as well. So neat little thing about this cutscene here is that at the end of it, the time for the cutscene to actually end and fade out is actually completely set by the game. So you can actually go into the menu and do whatever menuing you need, and as long as you exit the menu before that prescribed time is up, you actually don't lose any time. So Synthpop forcing his encounter here. So I do believe Synthpop will have the opportunity to stay on step route if he set it up. Oh, well, that unfortunately, that opportunity is now gone. With that, looked like he didn't give the ghost the opportunity to show up there. He may have even clipped through it while it was off screen. I'm not sure. So doing a little bit of equipping on Sabin here for the upcoming portions of the run. And so, like I said, all that timed in that menu doesn't mean anything because this is the background timer on this cutscene is still running. So we'll see if we get grasshoppers here, and yeah, we do. So this is why you would preferably would like to stay perfect in terms of step route. For this particular encounter right here. So the way the Velt works is that monsters are essentially part of packs, and you sort of increment through them. And so the grasshoppers, because of the pack that they're in and where you are and everything, you're going to see them. Because you fought them, they're now available for you to get on the Velt, and so you'll see them there as opposed to some easier encounters, and it'll throw your encounter packs off from what you would optimally like to have. Synthpop taking a little bit of a safety there, doing some healing. Absolutely nothing wrong with that if the train decides to be evil to you. So, neat little skip coming up here for this boss. So the way this boss is normally supposed to work is that you fight these piranha for, I believe it's a minute, and then after a minute, the boss shows up. But through a combination of an old glitch that Final Fantasy VI runners have known for a long time, and a relatively newer one, we're actually going to be able to skip the boss altogether. So as you can see here, we're going to put Sign down, and then we're going to revive him with the Phoenix down. And this enables something called Psycho Cyan, which is essentially Cyan's retort ability that we used to kill that general is now bugged out. And Cyan will now retort any physical ability that's used, not just ones that hit him, which is the way the ability is intended to work. So we're going to use retort on Cyan, and then Sabin is going to suplex or attempt to suplex this piranha. And then Cyan is going to retort off this, kill the piranha, and because that enemy was hit with a physical and a magical attack in the same round, something bugs in the enemy AI and it doesn't call any more piranhas, and the fight is just over. And we just never get to see the boss. It's definitely a really nice speed save. As well, Rizapaz doesn't have a lot of health. He's very fragile. So if you set the fight up correctly, you can take him down really quickly. However, if you mess that up, you can see a nice train suplex from Synthpops, and he's living for the memes for us. I wonder if that's exactly why he decided to heal his characters earlier. Nice suplex. Riza Pass, he does have El Nino and Aqua Rake, which will essentially completely wipe you out if he does manage to hit them with it. So it takes that small element of danger off the table as well. And so we run into Gao, or Gao as I used to call him as a kid. To get Gao to join us up, we need to give him some dried meat, which we will be going to Mobliz to pick up here. And that's because takaze is now off step route. He will get some less than terrific encounters here. This particular encounter, even if you're on step route, you get this pincer. But takaze's first encounter coming out of Mobliz will likely be that 3 Grasshopper pack. And that's not really ideal. That's a slow encounter. And they have the ability to berserker your characters. And if they happen to get them both, that's really bad, because you can't even attempt to recruit Gao after that if he does show up. Okay, was opting to sell a little bit of equipment there. I'm assuming that's to make sure that he has enough money for his smoke bombs and potentially buying a mithril pike in Nikia if takaze is choosing to go that route. So here's the Grasshoppers. So it looks like takaze is going to try and take them out rather than running. He's also weight tricking here to try and lower the amount of turns the Grasshoppers can get. But this is the other reason why the fight's bad, is that Cyan basically has to roll a near max dispatch to one-shot them. At least at the level you normally come in here with. There we go, that's a really nice one. And he does get first try Gao, which is really nice. Gao is a 5/8 chance to show up. On most encounters, as long as no one is dead. So you definitely can get unlucky and go a long chain without Gao showing up. It's certainly possible. Synthpop is doing a little bit of extra menuing there heading into Barren Falls. De-equipping Cyan to make him easier to put down is really common. I'm not too sure what he was doing when he was menuing around with Shadow there, but off to Barren Falls, and if he de-equips Cyan, I'm sure he will be going for his own Riza Pass skip here as well. As we see the much beloved Mr. Thao cutscene on takaze's end. All right, there we go. So I do believe takaze did need one extra turn to actually put down Cyan when he did his attempt. So potential to save a little bit of time here for Synth. This is why we equipped Sabin with the True Knight and the earrings, by the way. Aura Bolt actually counts as the magic attack, so the earrings will increase its damage. And the True Knight is to protect Cyan so that he does not get put back down again during this skip. Very nice Riza Pass skip there for Synth. I do believe Synth is off step as well, so he will also be seeing some strange encounters on the Veldt here. So Kaze has been he's played really well. He's also had some pretty decent RNG. I don't believe takaze has faced a non-required pincer yet, which is really, really nice. Fair amount of preemptives as well, but he's also just played really super solid. Synth, unfortunately, looked like he was attempting to get the step route set up, and unfortunately was off it for a while. Mount Colts in particular slowed him down a little bit, which is why he's fallen behind here a little bit. But definitely not so far behind that that a major mistake on takaze's end, he can't catch himself back up. And there are definitely still some scary moments of this run. The lock scenario can be scary with some bad luck. Kefka can wipe you right at the end. So takaze is heading into the Serpent Trench here. So the first encounter in this trench is another one of those moments that can be scary. You can potentially get a single Anguiform here. And if you do, that Anguiform can Aqua Rake you, and that will almost completely wipe you if you get it. So we'll see if he gets the Anguiform or the Actineons. So he gets the Actineon, so no problem. Just a standard run here. But getting the single Anguiform here can actually be relatively scary. And so, interesting choice there for takaze. I like that move. So, because Cyan is by far the slowest character to run out of the characters we see well, other than Bannon, in the characters that we get in this race. So because Cyan had taken those attacks and was so low, he opted to just kill Cyan off completely to increase his chances of running on the next few encounters. Running in the trench is a bit of a pain because these Anguiforms actually have a hard to run from flag as well. So that combined with Cyan's innately low chance to run, having Cyan down can definitely be a blessing. So no Gao yet for Synth. Probably going to get one more encounter here. Oh, not even quite. So Synth, unfortunately, is losing time here trying to force encounters for Gao. And nice RNG in the trench for takaze here as well. Synth, unfortunately, I'm assuming he has his characters in the back row still. If they were in the front, they would be able to just take those Mammoths out with regular attacks. Gets Gao here, though. So just the one extra encounter. A slow encounter, mind you, but takaze is opting to buy the Mithril Pike. So that Mithril Pike will go to Edgar for the final battle. There is another option other than buying the Pike. There is the Rune Edge and Narshe that you can pick up instead. But typically when most runners, if they're trying to do step route but fall off towards the end, you definitely, because you don't know how many encounters you're going to need to run or smoke bomb your way out of, will opt to pick up that Pike instead. And the other item, as I mentioned, that we buy here are the smoke bombs, which essentially cause you to instantly run from any fight, including pincers. And that is the main reason why we do save in scenario first, is so that we have those smoke bombs for the other two scenarios. So another little interesting thing coming up here for takaze. We'll be doing a clip here to get ourselves out of South Figaro. So basically just menu and move through that guard while he's moving. You get to clip through him and leave. And there's supposed to be a whole sequence of events and stuff you go through casually when you're in South Figaro. I'm just going to completely skip all of that and just get out immediately. And there's absolutely no side effects to this. There's definitely nobody getting beaten up in a basement because we did this. It's totally fine. So Locke is on his own here, so this can be a little bit scary. Oh, bit of a mixed menu there. I'm assuming that was supposed to be a smoke bomb. Gonna get punished with the poison. So there's a safety antidote in the returner hideout, and we pick it up specifically for this circumstance where Locke gets poisoned. So if Locke gets poisoned again, that can really be a problem. The other thing that can happen in this fight is that Locke on the back attack. So this is unfortunate here as well. Lucky not to get poisoned again, honestly. Taking a lot of damage though. I'm gonna have to menu and potion here for sure. The other thing that can happen is there's a fight with a gold bear here coming up. If you get pincered, if Locke gets gouged in the back, that'll essentially one-shot him. And here it is. Wow. That's like the third commentator's curse I think I've pulled out in this run so far, so I apologize to both runners. But you actually move Locke from the first slot into the second slot, specifically to have Locke facing that gold bear, so that if that gold bear chooses to gouge, Locke takes it in the face rather than in the back. Then that Thunder Rod that takaze picked up before heading over here is how we're going to get through Tunnel Armor. Rods are extremely broken, much like they were in Final Fantasy V. They cast a level 2 version of whatever their element is. And it also completely ignores enemy magic resistance. So it does a ton of damage and just one-shots Tunnel Armor. So it looks like Synth has got the Actineon fight here as well. He's going to be able to dodge the Anguiforms. Pincers in the Serpent Trench can be a bit of a problem too, because you kind of have to fight your way out of them, and you can't target Cyan and Sabin's strongest abilities. And all the enemies in the Serpent Trench have attacks that they'll use either only if they can use either if they're only the only enemy left, or at least they'll have a greater chance at using them when they're the only enemy left. So a few little menuing errors here from takaze, but he still had a really nice run on a really nice pace, even despite some poor RNG in that in the Locke scenario there. And so you should be able to see here too on Synth's end, since Cyan is still alive for him. You can see how slow Cyan is from running. So this was something that takaze managed to avoid by having Cyan go down so early. So this one little stretch here, this one encounter is the one encounter that it actually has level appropriate enemies in it. And Bannon is still a lose condition, so if you get pincered here and all the enemies gang up on Bannon, it is possible to game over here. Can also happen actually on the Leet River itself, especially if you fight pterodons. If one of them crits Bannon, that can hit for like a truck. See what Synthops to do here. If he's buying the Mithril Pike as well, he is. So Synth doing a little bit of extra menuing there because he was only doing the 2 sprint shoes route. Although it looked like he put them back on Cyan, which is interesting. Hopefully he still has a set for lock in that scenario. Takaze running from this fight here, probably either out of smoke bombs or low on them. Synth is de-equipping a bunch of characters here. I'm not too sure what he's up to. Hopefully we'll get to see in a bit here. Nice preemptive here with if he's low on smoke bombs, that's really nice for takaze. But takaze's finished the 3 scenarios. He is moving on to the final stretch here, the final battle leading up to Kefka. Synth looks like he's opting to do the Terra scenario before lock. Likely as a consequence of his sprint shoes route. So the final cutscene coming up here, and we'll get to see some interesting side effects of that little clip that we did in South Figaro. So the one thing you do have to keep in mind if you do terrorist scenario before lock is to watch your smoke bomb count, because running from a couple of encounters with this party here isn't too bad. Trying to run from encounters with just lock can be awful, especially if you don't have any smoke bombs left and you get pincered. That's a real problem. And we can see for takaze here, we get to see the face of evil, General Kutan, the monster who torched Miranda. Look at those evil eyes just scheming. Pure evil. But in all seriousness, this is an effect of that clip out of South Figaro. So for anyone who hasn't played the game casually, there's another party member, Celeste, who you're supposed to rescue in South Figaro and bring here. Because we didn't actually do that, the game's not quite sure what to do with Celeste's spot going forward, and so it actually fills it with essentially the character who had her spot in the memory last, which is Kutan, who was one of the random Mughals in the multi-party Mughal battle that we did earlier. And this is permanent. You do retain Kutan. Eventually, Kutan will take on Celeste's sprite, but it won't have her stats or anything. So that can be a problem. If you decide to take the game further than Kefka at Narshe. But since we're stopping at Kefka at Narshe, then there's no problem. So I was hoping to be able to see what Synth's smoke bomb count was at, but since he has a preemptive here, I'm not going to get to see it until we actually head into the lock scenario. So Takaze is opting to take a safety save here. No problem with this strategy. Kefka. So Kefka can be a problem if you weight trick Kefka correctly. Kefka will only get two rounds, and he can kill off a single character, or if you get really unlucky, maybe two if he gets like a melee crit or something. But generally, that's pretty safe. If Kefka gets to turn 3, Kefka can ice 2 on turn 3, and if he chooses to ice 2 your entire party, that can wipe you. So you really don't want to see turn 3 on Kefka if you can avoid it. And it is a 1 in 3 chance, so it's certainly not rare if you get there. So this first little part here, just going to walk into this little channel here, and all of these green soldiers are just going to walk right around you. And then we're going to wait here and let these brown soldiers will walk by as well. And once again, much like with the Moogle encounter, we can just completely avoid this. Oh, fighting the Rider, though. So the Rider can be dangerous. The Rider has a couple of moves that can one-shot characters. Quicksilver, in particular, can be deadly. Takaze looks like he's going to be all right here. The Rider opted to just a melee twice and didn't hit the same character. So he's likely going to potion here. But not going to go into Kefka with 3 or fewer party members, which can be really dangerous. I believe Synth is down to 4 smoke bombs now, so he should be okay. And so you can see the weight tricking going on Takaze's end here. Basically just going to be weight tricking, particularly on Sabin's Aura Bolts, as much as you can, just to try to make sure the Kefka does not get that 3rd turn. I believe this smoke bomb will probably, the Aura Bolt will probably be enough. No, need the dispatch from Saiyan. But there you go. Nicely done from Takaze. GG's. To Takaze, who's finished with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 27 minutes, and 20 seconds. Really nice run. Just really solid. Just no major mistakes. Some good RNG early, a little bit of rough RNG in the lock scenario, but mostly nailed all the major tech. Just losing the step right on the train, the only real thing that could be called a major mistake, really. And fighting the Rider at the end, I guess. But just a really solid run overall. So Synth is heading into his final part of the run here. And Synth has put up a really decent fight here, especially considering the issues with him being off step route for so long. Fighting through that, and I would definitely say overall Synth had worse RNG than Takaze did on the whole. So definitely going to be a respectable something in the low 130-ish, 131 area probably here. Maybe a little bit more than that, but still. And be sure, guys, if you enjoyed the race today, if you enjoyed Final Fantasy VI, be sure to follow both of these runners. I'm sure they'll have plenty more RPG action in Final Fantasy VI for you. Here. Sorry, just... Oh, sorry, just lost the stream there for a moment, but I think we're back here. Speaking of which, I am joined by our winner, Takaze. GG, sir. Very nice run.
Thank you, thank you.
So from my vantage point, I mean, other than losing the step route on the train, I mean, really, really solid run overall for you. Like, really well handled. What, anything jump out at you in particular?
Yeah, I mean, as you pointed out, the Phantom Train was where things started going pretty poorly for me. Before that, I was on pace, like pretty good pace, potentially getting a 124. But the start of Phantom Train, when I actually got on it, first the ghosts decided to be jerks and were constantly blocking me. And I didn't want to waste too many steps trying to walk around them. This was in the first and second cars. Then immediately after the second car, I got off of step route. Because like I was like in my mind, I was thinking like, man, those ghosts were jerks. Like, but we're past it. Like nothing else can ruin this run now than I fail at walking through a door and got off step route. I was still a little disappointed. Like lock scenario, that was pretty bad. Not entirely my fault, but
no, you did have some really rough RNG in that section for sure.
Yeah, in one of the fights, I accidentally used a potion instead of the smoke bombs. Yeah. But then getting a back attack that followed immediately up by a pincer. I'm really thankful that I did heal up after the back attack, because the pincer was the really scary pincer that could have gone pretty poorly if I wasn't at full HP.
Yeah, for sure. I don't believe the bear gouged anyway, but even
no, it didn't. I managed to get out of the fight before it gouged.
Yeah.
And then the pretty big mistake of accidentally fighting the rider at the very end.
Right. Yeah.
Cost maybe 45 seconds or so. Just wanted to show off for everybody.
I mean, he was pretty nice to you considering a couple of melees on two different characters. But
yeah, I did have an extra Phoenix down because of the leader in Cyan. With Cyan, didn't drop the black belt. He dropped the Phoenix down. So even if he did pop someone off, I had a backup Phoenix down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually both you and Synth actually both got the 1 of 8 for that, which was odd.
Well, it looks like I think he just finished up, at least in the channel.
Synth got the party-wide ice too.
Oh.
Cyan and Sabin hanging on, and Sabin with the clutch aura bolt kill. So he gets through it, but wow, that was scary.
Yeah, I may have spoiled it, but he did have full HP on Sabin there, and as long as Sabin has full HP, Sabin can live through the ice too. And I'm actually pretty surprised Cyan lived through it. I know why. He actually did throw equipment on Cyan, so probably pretty good safety there, making sure Cyan lives through the ice too.
Yeah, he did the 2 sprint shoes with Star Pendant route as well, so he was already in the menu equipping stuff. So GG's. Yeah, for sure. GG's to Synth with the finish. Official SRL time of 1 hour 33 minutes 33 seconds. Synth definitely, I think, had rougher RNG than you on the whole throughout the first part of the run as well.
Yeah, I wasn't paying too much attention. I noticed that he got off before returners. He seemed to have got off steps somewhere. I'm not really too sure where, but he was getting into encounters and not the right places.
Yeah, he was. I noticed in the Narshe cave that his encounters were off where he was getting them, but because you have to force an encounter there anyway, I believe he was back on step. I didn't notice where he lost it after that. I think it was in the South Figaro cave, but I may be wrong there.
Okay.
But yeah, you're especially the first part of the takaze was really, really nicely handled. For
yeah,
you.
I was pretty pumped to break into the 124 territory, but not today. Maybe next time.
Absolutely. And we're joined by Synth. GG Synth on the run there for you.
GG.
Sure, we'll get the issues sorted out there with push to talk, or I'm not sure what it is, but sure we'll hear from Synth shortly.
I don't know if you guys can hear me.
There we go.
There we go. No.
Okay, it seems like you can, but I can't hear you. So, I guess just real quick then. Congratulations, Takaze. That was a fantastic time. Thanks for the race.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Even, if you can't hear.
Zyrak, thank you for the commentary.
Yeah, no problem. I had a couple of audio issues myself earlier, so if you watch it back, you probably won't hear any commentary for the first 4 minutes or so. I think I kicked in right after Welk somewhere. But once again, GG's to both runners. Really entertaining race from both of them. And again, if you like what you saw, be sure to give them a follow. I'm sure that either of them would appreciate to see you in their chats in the future. And if you want to stick around in the Speed Gaming family of channels, there's lots going on. There's Zelda 2 going on. There's Link to the Past going on. I believe there's another race, Final Fantasy 6 coming up here as well. So be sure to hang around on Speed Gaming for all the races tonight. Thanks to Fiesel for handling the restream.
And thanks to you for commentating.
Anytime. So yeah, my name is Zyrak, and we'll see you guys all at the next race. Have a good night.